خلاص. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا وحبيبنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. صلوا على رسول الله. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا وحبيبنا ونبينا محمد. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد صلاة تفتح لنا أبواب الرضا والتيسير وتغلق بها عنا أبواب الشر والتعسير. أنت مولانا فنعم المولى ونعم النصير. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد الفاتح لما أغلق الخاتم لما سبق ناصر الحق بالحق والهادي إلى صراطك المستقيم وعلى آله حق قدره ومقداره العظيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The chapter we're covering today in Shamaa'il, and we're very close to the end, meaning that we're going to be done with Shamaa'il. And I know this is something that we loved as a series over the year. The chapter today is concerning the age of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Concerning the age of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You already know the answer, but let's cover the ahadith that are related to it. Before, as an introduction, when it comes to age, we all know that many ahadith are related about the virtues, you can say, of older age. As you know, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, ala Rasulillah, he said, "Man shaba shaybatan fil Islami kanat lahu nuran yawm al-qiyamah." Whoever grows gray hairs and gets old as a Muslim in Islam, then those same gray hairs are going to be a light for them on the Day of Judgment. Subhanallah. It's going to be nur on the Day of Judgment. And we know the Prophet ﷺ, another narration, he was asked, "Ya Rasulullah, who is the best of people?" He said, "The one who lives a long life and does a lot of good deeds." Man tala umruhu wa hasuna amaluhu. A long life, and a long life, not just a long life, but a long life that is also in worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet ﷺ, he also said, Ali radiallahu anhu, he says that the death of a person after he grows old and knows Allah is better than if you were to die as a young child without having hisab. Subhanallah. That for you to grow old and be a righteous person and you had the choice, you made the choice to do good, and you lived that long life in worship of Allah Azza wa Jalla, that's better than dying even as a young child without hisab. Subhanallah. And there's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ which is actually very scary. That there is in the khulasa of the hadith is that there remains no excuse in front of Allah Azza wa Jal for the one who passes the age of 60. Very scary. There is no excuse for doing sin for the one who passes the age of 60. This hadith is in Sahih al-Bukhari. Why? Because you had all this time to change yourself, all this time to get closer to Allah, and now at that age, a man in his 20s and 30s, is he going to have the same level of testosterone and this, that, as in his 50s and 60s? No. So even the shahwat and the desires for the dunya, they go away. There reaches a certain point, then khalas. Brother of the Salam, he always says that, when you get the gray hairs, this is basically Allah's giving you the invoice. Not the invoice, the what? The notice. No gray hair. But basically, this is it. Khalas, you're going to get kicked out, you're going to be brought to the akhirah. What do they do when you don't pay for your apartment? What's that thing called? When you don't pay for your apartment for a certain amount of time, then they give you a notice or something? Yeah, there's a word for it. Notice? Yeah, so Allah's basically giving you a notice, subhanallah. So after all of this time that you've lived, and this you still haven't done tawbah, you still haven't turned to Allah Azza wa Jal, that is something to really think about. How long did the Prophet ﷺ live? 63 years. There's other riwayat. I'm going to explain how to understand it from a hadith lens. But nowadays, we know the average age expectancy is, they say American woman, the 2021, this according to CDC, American women live 79 years, average. It's much longer than before because of the healthcare system and whatnot. And the average for men is 73, according to CDC. 73 for men, 79 for women. That's the average. Of course, there are exceptions and people live up to 90 and 100 and you see all of that. We ask you, Ya Allah, give us long life, Ya Allah, but never make us muhtaj upon others. Never make us in need of others, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Because you all know that when a person reaches a certain very, very, very old age, where then now they need help from people, it's not a pleasant time. It's not a pleasant time. You know, it's really, really painful for them. It's painful for the family. So we ask Allah for a long, healthy life, Ya Rabbil Alameen. A question though, the Prophet ﷺ, we're discussing his age, and the chapter after is going to discuss his passing away. And when we discuss the Prophet ﷺ's death, this is going to be a time where I'm going to turn off the lights, and this is a time where you're like, even when you cover the story in the hadith, you'll start to cry yourself. So that will save, inshallah, for a later week, not today. What about the Prophet ﷺ? We discussed his life. He lived for 63 years. Did he pass away, ﷺ? Yes or no? Yes. Kullu nafsin dha'iqatul maut. Every soul shall taste death. But is he alive now, sallallahu alayhi wasallam? Yes, he is. Hayyun fi qabrihi yurzaq. The prophets are alive in their graves, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is sustaining them in a way, in hayah barzaqiyah, that we cannot possibly imagine. When the Prophet ﷺ passed by Musa alayhi salam in his grave, he saw him praying. Okay, I covered so many proofs. If you remember Saturday, I didn't record that lesson, and I wish I did. I'm not going to revisit that. But the Prophet ﷺ is alive in his grave, and when you give salams to him here, you say sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Delivery angels, you know how you have Uber Eats and you have different things. They do the delivery. So imagine angels, their job is only delivering. They get the salam and they say, Ya Rasulullah, you know, so-and-so Junaid gave you salam. So-and-so gave you salam. And the Prophet ﷺ will reply to it. And when you go in person, the Prophet ﷺ responds to you in person. There's no need for the delivery angel. You see? And there's other things that are also from the khususiyat of the Prophet ﷺ. This is not the lecture for it. وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ فِيكُمْ رَسُولَ اللَّهِ. I read it in the first rak'ah. So although the Prophet ﷺ is not amongst, in our midst, okay, physically, but does that mean his teachings are not with us? Of course. The Quran is still with us. The teaching is still with us. All of the nations were sent a prophet. The Prophet ﷺ was sent to this ummah. He may not be with us physically, but his ahadith are with us. The Quran is with us. His wisdoms, his teachings, the scholars, these are all things for us to connect us to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So now we'll go into the chapter. It's very short. You already know the answer to it, but it's good to cover the ahadith, inshallah. The first hadith عن ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما قال مكث النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم بمكة 13 سنة يوحى إليه وبالمدينة 10 وتوفي وهو ابن 63. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم صلوا على رسول الله. He remained in Mecca for 13 years receiving divine revelation. Okay, so let's divide his life. 40 years before Nubuwah. Okay? 13 years of what? In Mecca when he gets wahi. Okay, 13 years when he gets wahi. And then after he does hijrah and he remains the remaining 10 years where? In Medina. So 40, 13, 10, 50, 63 years. 63 years, okay. So that is the life of the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so many of the scholars, they say that the best age is 63. And that if a person reaches this age, and the ulama of tasawwuf and the arifin, those that have a close relationship with Allah Azza wa Jal, that whenever they would reach the age of 63, that's it. Now it's time to prepare for the next life. Leave the dunya, khalas. What you got, you got. Now 63, khalas. What's remaining? Now just prepare for the akhirah. In fact, people should be preparing from now, but especially at that age, 63. Imagine the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he passed away at this age. So really, it should wake someone up. And a narration where Muawiyah radiallahu an, say radiallahu an. We Ahlul Sunnah, we love Muawiyah radiallahu an. Despite whatever might have happened, between him and Ali and all of the different things, but we love all of those Sahaba radiallahu anhum jami'a. So we have to say radiallahu anhum every time. So Muawiyah radiallahu anh, he was delivering a sermon, and he said, while delivering a sermon, he said that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he passed away at the age of 63. Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, he passed away at the age of 63. Umar radiallahu anh, he passed away at the age of 63. They all passed away at the age of 63. Okay, you can imagine. Of course, I think Abu Bakr is 100%. He passed away at 63. I think Umar, there is close to that age. Al-Muhim, they all passed away at 63. Okay, they've all passed away at 63. And then he said, and I am now also 63 years of age. What is he trying to say? He said, huh? No, he said, I wish I could pass away and meet Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and be with my companions. They passed away at this age. Ya Allah, take me too. Ya Allah, take me too. Many people fear and run from death. Bilal radiallahu an, when he heard when he was at his deathbed, he said, what is that? Wallahi, that line. He said, "Ghadan nalqa al-ahibba Muhammadan wa sahbah." Yeah, he said, tomorrow we will meet our beloved ones, our beloved friends, Muhammad ﷺ and his companions, and my companions. So Bilal at the time of death, he was so happy. His wife was crying. He said, don't be sad. I'm going to meet Rasulullah ﷺ, so I have nothing to be sad about. So this is how a believer should view death. It's sad for the people in the dunya, but for the one who's leaving and taking that journey, inshallah, if they did good, and they treated people well, they followed the Quran, they followed the Sunnah, they prayed their salawat, and they kept their relationship with Allah clean, they know themselves, then they shouldn't be afraid of death. Rather, they should, a Muslim in that sense, in that regard, nobody should be wanting death on themselves. That's suicide. But there's nothing wrong with wanting to meet Rasulullah ﷺ and wanting to go to Jannah and wanting all of these things. So you have to understand with this nuance, Muslims do not hope for death, okay? But they do hope to meet Rasulullah and they do hope for Jannah and they hope to meet with their families, okay? But Muawiyah, did he pass away at 63? No, he did not. He passed away closer to 80. Closer to 80, radiallahu anhu. The Prophet ﷺ in another hadith, Aisha, أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم مات وهو ابن 63 سنة. That the Prophet ﷺ, again, another narration that he passed away at the age of 63 years. Okay? Another narration, Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma, he said the Prophet ﷺ passed away at the age of 65. Okay? He passed away at the age of 65. 65, 63, what is it? I'll explain it to you. And the next narration, he also mentions the Prophet ﷺ was taken at 65 years of age. Although there's some commentary on this man, and hadith scholars, they go into it. Well, who's considered a Sahaba, who's not considered a Sahaba? That's a whole lecture on its own. And we're not here to just study the minute details of hadith science, but also to just get closer to Rasulullah ﷺ through this book. Okay, so in the next hadith after, it says 60, 63, 60, 65. How do you understand all of this? Okay, 63 is what the scholars almost or unanimously agree that his life was what? 63 years of age. 65 is when you round it up. Or if you count the year he was born in and you count the year that he passed away in. So you round up, okay? You round up the year he was born and then you round up the year he passed away, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. 60 is when they're just rounding up. Like let's say I have $41 in my pocket. I'm going to say I have $41. I'm going to say I have $40. I'm going to say I have $40. I have $72.50. No, I'm going to say I have $70, So same thing, the Arab, especially in their time, they were not precise with numbers and precise with accounting in that regard. They would just give estimates. So they said 60 years of age, but not necessarily 60. How much actually? 63. So this is how we understand the different narrations. So if you ever read a narration, you're like, but I remember that the age of Rasulullah ﷺ is 63. This is how you understand it. It's mu'awwal. You understand it in light of how they used to use numbers in their time. So the last hadith of this chapter is very beautiful. We covered it in the beginning. You can revisit that, the description of the physical features of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as reported by Anas radiallahu anhu. Anas radiallahu anhu, he was from the young companion or the old companions? Young companions. And many of the Sahaba that described his physical features were from the young ones. Why? Because his haiba and his samt, and the Prophet ﷺ's I don't even know how to, his awe, it made it hard for the Sahaba to stare at him. They had too much respect for him, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Subhanallah. They had so much respect for him that they could not stare at him, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that they would get in a state of awe. So the ones that were able to see him more vividly and look closely and whatnot were the young companions, subhanallah. Were the young Sahaba radiallahu anhum. So Anas radiallahu anhu, he was the one who gave the description in this hadith. He said the Prophet ﷺ was neither exceedingly tall nor short. Because if a person is too tall, well, unless he plays for the NBA or this, that, a person is too tall, is this seen as something that's praiseworthy? Or it's not the perfect. It's not what's perfect. Okay? And he was not too short. The Prophet ﷺ was of medium stature, meaning he, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was the perfect height. And he, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he would stand with people that were taller than him, he would not appear to be shorter. Allah would make him appear to be the one that was taller. So subhanAllah, there's some of the things that are special to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was neither extremely white. You know what's that, people are born with that skin disease where they're all white? Albino? Yeah. Albino, right? Albino? What else? I don't know the word he said, but I trust what you said. And baras too. Huh? Vitiligo? Albino and vitiligo. Albino and vitiligo. 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 Oh, vitiligo. Okay. If I said it wrong, please forgive me. But albino, vitiligo, you can Google it. So the Prophet wasn't white like milk. And he wasn't dark either, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was white with a hint of redness. He was white, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, with a hint of redness, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This does not mean that a person who's dark, he's bad, okay? This does not mean that a person who's tall, he's bad. The person who's short. What you can't control, Allah is not going to hold you accountable for. This is just describing Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There is no preference in skin color in that regard, okay? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his hair was neither extremely curly like an afro. You know, some people they have in Africa, for example, the very thick curly hair. Perhaps other regions as well. I can't think of any right now. And his hair wasn't straight, you know, like that we have in Asia, like Indonesian brothers or South Asian like myself, where it's very straight. You know, the Prophet ﷺ was more wavy in the middle. Everything he sallallahu alaihi wasallam was in the middle. Ummatan wasata. His deen is in the middle. His looks were in the middle. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Everything was perfect. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allah sent him forth with a prophetic message 40 years from his birth. That's when he got the Risala. After which he remained in Mecca for 10 years. This is again, either they're rounding or they're not considering the time period where the Prophet ﷺ was doing da'wah sirriya, where he was just doing the local da'wah and not going out. So it could be either this or that. It's mu'awwal. And in Medina for 10 years, which is accurate. And Allah took his blessed soul, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, at 60 years of age, or 63, which we said, but rounded and whatnot, and the explanations I gave. And at the time of passing, there were no more than 20 white hairs in his blessed head or beard, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So there's narrations about how many white hairs did he have. It was over here, in this part, in the middle of his head, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is where he had his white hairs. Right here, and anfaqa, over here, and then over here as well. The different places where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had white hairs, gray hairs. And there were no more than 20. I think the number was 13 to 19. We covered it in a separate chapter. So again, this is the khulasa of the age of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This lesson is short, but the next lesson, or perhaps I'll see when I want to do it, about the passing away of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I feel that it requires more time and it requires more focus, with lights off and with more khushu' in a sense. Not more khushu' like salah, but coming in a state of really like we're focused in the dars, inshallah. Wa sallallahu ala nabina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Before I end the class, we'll send salawat ala nabi 10 times. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala sayyidina Muhammad. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala sayyidina Muhammad. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala sayyidina Muhammad. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala sayyidina Muhammad. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala sayyidina Muhammad. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala sayyidina Muhammad. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala sayyidina Muhammad. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala sayyidina Muhammad. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala sayyidina Muhammad. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala sayyidina Muhammad. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala sayyidina Muhammad. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala sayyidina Muhammad. About sending salawat upon the Prophet ﷺ 11 times is something very unique. Without going into too much detail, if a person wants to protect themselves from shayateen and from different things, there are many adhkar that a person should do. Fatiha, Ayatul Kursi, the last verse of Baqarah, Mu'awwidhatayn, the three quls, basically all of those 5 surahs plus the different ayat, and then also sending salawat upon the Prophet ﷺ, each one 11 times. So you do each of those 11 times, including sending salawat upon the Prophet ﷺ 11 times. So this is something that we find also, inshallah ta'ala. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
اللهم خلص الشيطان مني كما خلصته من رحمتك